Hi guys out there, all our alumni who have been to Madrasha in the last few years and maybe even beyond. I'm coming to you from my office here, the fish tank, in the Beit Midrash, to share with you some Divrei Torah for Hanukkah. Hopefully it will enhance your Hanukkah and give you a little lift. I was thinking of you when I read something this week with a girl. We were learning Bechavruta, and we read something in Hegyonei Halacha that I wanted to share with you that I thought would be particularly meaningful for you, because we always think, and you always thought, that your year here was definitely one of, if not the most important year of your life, right? To learn Torah, to be in Eretz Yisrael, and to really get into things and develop a relationship with God and work on all of that. And it was, but I read something that showed me that it's this year, it's these first few years right after your year in Israel that really are the most important, okay? And I want to explain why, and hopefully that will help motivate you to make the best of your year, if you're the year right after Israel or the few years right after. So the question is, why God provided the miracle of Shemen Zayit Tahor for Bnei Israel? Because there's a rule, Tuma Hutra B'tzibor. There's a halacha, like with Korban Pesach. If you are tamei, you're not allowed to bring the korban on Pesach, right? But if everyone's tamei, if the whole Am Yisrael is tamei for whatever reason, then tuma hutra b'tzibor. All of a sudden, on that level, when there's communal tuma, so then it's allowed, and everybody can bring the korban Pesach, and nobody needs to wait a month to bring it for Pesach Sheni. Remember, a month later, when normally if a person was tamei, they'd make it up a month later when they're tahor. But if everybody's tamei, tuma hutra b'tzibor, and you can bring the korban Pesach on Yud Daled Nisan. Okay? So if that's the rule, then here, when we're talking about a time of war, and we're talking about the Beit HaMikdash being trashed and defiled, and there's tuma, and everything's been defiled, so then tuma hutra b'tzibor, and they absolutely, according to halacha, could have lit the menorah with whatever oil they found. It did not have to be tahor, halachically. So it's a fair question, and it's a good question, why Hashem did a miracle that you would think is unnecessary, right? God doesn't step in and do nisim gluyim, for no reason. So why give them this oil? Why help them find that little flask? So the answer I read here in Hegyonei Halacha was an answer that Rav Mirsky, who wrote Hegyonei Halacha, quotes in the name of someone named Rav Yosef Angil, Ayin Nun Gimel Yud Lamed, Angil, and he says that what's going on here is that God realized that this was the beginning. This is the beginning. This is a Chanukat HaMenorah, a Chanukat HaMishkan. And at the beginning of all things, it needs to be done well. It needs to be done perfectly. You need to lay the right foundation. Some examples would be what I think of in terms of couples who get married and choose to spend the first year here next door at Grus, right? To spend their first year married in Eretz Yisrael, they feel will be a great foundation for their marriage. Or I think of Aseret Yemei Tshuva, and how girls always ask, what's the point of being so machmir on certain things, or eating, only Chalav Yisrael, or only Pas Yisrael during Aseret Yemei Tshuva? Like, what's the point? What, are you fooling God? God knows you're not going to do that the rest of the year. And we answer, but it's the beginning. And the beginning really is important. To kick off your year, to kick off your marriage with such a strong foundation will absolutely take it where maybe it wouldn't have gone had you not done that. Okay? So it's the same thing here. We're talking about Chanukat HaMikdash. We're talking about the first time we're going to use the menorah. The first time we're going to use the menorah now needs to be perfect, because it's the beginning of everything. So it's not that it's not necessary. It's actually very necessary to start it in the right way. And so God provided them with this opportunity to find the nace of Shemen Zayit that was tahor, that had the stamp still of the Kohanim on it, so that the menorah could be dedicated in the best way possible, and from there to carry on. And what Rav Mirsky says is that what a beautiful way to think about all issues of chinuch. And I think to myself that the menorah, remember, is our symbol for light, for Torah. So if you think about the menorah as being a mashal for Torah, so let's talk about Torah, let's talk about chinuch, and how when we do issues of chinuch, we want them to turn out right. We want this to be the basis. Your chinuch is your training. Literally, lechanech is to train. We want to train a kid in a way that will last him for life. We want to give a kid a good foundation. We talk about schooling as being a foundation. So he says that there's a Gemara. Okay, Rav Mirsky quotes a Gemara in Baba Metzia, where someone, Rav Chia, talks about that he has a plan for a school. Okay, here's his plan for education. He says it like this. I'm going to read it to you. It's so interesting. Hayiti zorea pishtan. Okay, I'm going to plant flaxseed, v'toveh rishtot, and I'm going to spin like into thread and make nets. V'tzad behen sfaim, and I'm going to go hunt deer with those nets. At bisaram hayiti ma'achil yatomim. Then my plan would be that I would take that flesh of the deer and feed it to a bunch of orphans who are needy. V'al orotehem hayiti kotev chamisha chomshei Torah, and then on the hide, on the skin of the deer, I would write kosher sifrei Torah. V'olech lamakom shein bo melamdim, and I would go somewhere where there were no teachers, umelamed bahem at Yiladei Yisrael, and then I would teach kids Torah in a place where there were no schools off of the sifrei Torah. That's his plan for education. Okay, so of course, the question is, who starts talking about a school with planting flax seeds, right? So the Marsha explains, a Rishon on the Gemara, explains that it's beautiful. What Rabbi Chia is saying is that when you talk about chinuch, when you're talking about children, you have to understand that we're talking about the foundation. So the foundation has to come out perfect. And if you just take a Sefer Torah and just start teaching kids, if you just take, a school and just start teaching, how do you know that every part of that was L'Shem Shamayim? And every part has to be L'Shem Shamayim. So he says, I would start at the very, very beginning. I would take that seed and I would plant it, L'Shem Shamayim. And then I would take that flax and I would spin it, L'Shem Shamayim, to make nets, L'Shem Shamayim, to hunt down deer, on which I'm going to write Sifrei Torah, from which I'm going to teach kids. And that way, the beginning of the beginning was done, it was such pure intent. And that's the way we think about Torah, that it's the beginning of everything, and that even the creation of a school has to be done with such, holy roots. So I was thinking that it's such a nice message for you guys on Hanukkah to think about how here you are after Israel, and even though you think this, being here in Midrashat Moriah, was the foundation, it's not true. This was your gift of clarity. This was your year here to learn and be clear and think and relate to Torah and Hashem and teachers in a different way. But now that you are in the real world, right? Now that you're in your Chaim and you have to do a Torah Chaim, you have to make Torah applicable to your lives. This is your first year of doing that, or your second or third, but it's the beginning. It's the beginning of a life outside of seminary. So in terms of that has to be done well. Your first year, your second year out of Midrash, that has to be done so well. You have to pick the right friends. You have to pick the right learning schedule. You have to make sure that you're davening well. You have to pick the right Sfarim to learn. You have to make sure that you're connected to your teachers here in a way that's feasible and helpful, and in a way that all of that is going to be the best beginnings for you in order to continue being that connected to Torah and developing that kind of routine that's so good for you to have outside of your bubble year, of your honeymoon year here in Israel. So I, of course, wish you all the luck in doing that, and we know, based on talking to so many of you, that you are doing that, and that you're finding shiurim, and you're finding people to connect to, and you're thinking about what helped you grow here, and how you can continue trying to seek that and find that, so that you guys can all keep growing for many years to come, even outside Midrashet. And we are all here cheering you on, and whenever you want to be in touch, and we miss learning Torah with you, so come back and visit.